21 wins, 19 finishes, and a UFC middleweight title now shining bright in his trophy cabinet. The awkward yet unpredictable Dricus Du Plessis is a
hell of a lot better than we knew he was.
But how good is he actually? At UFC 297, Dricus Du Plessis emerged victorious in a battle for the history books against Sean Strickland, winning the middleweight title despite being counted out by almost everyone but the former champ. In our previous video on Dricus Du Plessis, we said he fights like a gorilla on roller skates. Well, that seems to be the most effective way of fighting in a day and age where fighters are obsessed with being aesthetically technical. Dricus, on the other hand, is deceptively tactical, according to Joe Rogan.
Dricus looks awkward when he fights. He moves different, but that movement and that awkwardness makes him difficult to time. It's like his timing is off. And if you don't have anybody that can imitate that kind of stutter step motion that he does,
he fights weird.
It's deceptively technical. Though.
Maybe that's the reason why even the most technical of fighters struggle against Du Plessis.
He's a big, strong guy, and he's awkward as hell to fight. But one of his things is, like, he goes out on his shield. He's not going to go away. He will not give up. He'll need to leave that octagon on stretcher. And, mate, that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he showed. I will say congratulations to the new champ because, mate, he wanted it more.
Du Plessis clearly wanted the belt more. What Whittaker said when he was asked who he thinks would win a DDP versus Izzy clash.
I'm going to say DDP. Just because he's like Sean with Dricus. It's the safe bet was Sean, but Dricus showed what he was willing to do and what he's willing to go through. Can he do that again against Izzy? Who knows? But he's a tough guy. He's awkward, and he's going to be pushing forward that entire time. Doesn't matter if he's getting hit. He showed that tenacity in that fight. So, yeah, I'll go DDP.
For those who don't know, Israel Adesanya was set to defend his belt against Du Plessis at UFC 293, but the latter refused to fight, citing an injury. A few months prior to the event, Du Plessis had this to say.
I'm the African fighter in the UFC. Myself and Cameron, we breathe the African air. We wake up in Africa every day. We train in Africa, we're African born, we're African raised. We still reside in Africa, we train out of Africa. That's an African champion, and that's who I'll be.
DDP is now the first African champion eating, sleeping, and training in Africa. But even before he won the belt, former middleweight champ Chris Weidman put him at the top of his list of African fighters in the UFC. For reference, the list also includes Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and Francis Ngannou. Now, do you know what happens when UFC fighters allegedly act like casuals? They get whipped online, and Weidman had it no different. One UFC fan said, and I quote, "Racism written all over it." Another one said, "Today I learned UFC fighters don't know how to make top 5 lists." Some even complained why the real African GOAT wasn't on the list. But back to the topic, Du Plessis will most probably defend his belt against the guy who's African but ain't his brother. And interestingly, Izzy is more appreciative of his skill set than anybody else.
He's a crafty little minx, that one. But yeah, nothing surprised me.
You got your wish. You're one of the only few pushing for dress.
If any, not many. Like, literally, this is what I'm saying. Shout out to Dricus for working hard to get that win, doing his thing. But not many was picking him to win, and I was picking him to win for a reason.
The thing is, Dricus Du Plessis is an absolute monster who destroys his opponent's rhythm with his insane pressure and forward movement. He's 7-0 in the UFC, and that's 7 times he's proved everyone wrong. For instance, a few months ago, Daniel Cormier wasn't a believer in Lord Dricus. Now he is.
I am learning, even though I've been in this game for a long time, that all mixed martial arts doesn't look the same. Sometimes it looks different, and Dricus Du Plessis looks different. But as I now have gained an appreciation for his style, I know what it looks like to me now. It looks like a champion of the world. because that's exactly what Dricus Du Plessis is.
Michael Bisping was perhaps always a believer in Du Plessis' ability, because before the South African star's crowning moment at UFC 297, the Brit was one of the few who said DDP's striking was better than Strickland's.
I think Dricus Du Plessis is the better striker. He believes in himself more, he walks forward, he's more aggressive, okay, and he's more effective. That's why only one of his fights has ever gone to a decision. So striking, I've got Dricus Du Plessis as the better striker.
And not only does Bisping think Dricus is a better striker, he even thinks he's better at wrestling and jiu-jitsu as compared to Strickland.
We have Dricus the better striker, we have him the better wrestler, and we have him the better jiu-jitsu player as well. You put it all together, started to trend towards Dricus Du Plessis.
Bisping's opinions may raise eyebrows even now, but he's not the only guy who thinks Du Plessis is a different beast. Even before UFC 297, boxing coach Teddy Atlas knew things most of us didn't.
Here's the reason why I think so much of Du Plessis. Yeah, he's big. Yeah, he's George Foreman strong and all that stuff. But he's smart. If he was just big and strong, I wouldn't be as impressed as I was that night against Whittaker, because he didn't just beat Whittaker that night only on physicality. He beat him because he mixed his size and his physicality with technique and smarts. You got two tough guys, two physical guys, one is smarter, bang. As Customato always said, that guy becomes tougher. That guy becomes better just because he's smarter. And I see those characteristics in Du Plessis.
And fast forward to Dricus' recent title win against Sean Strickland, we can see that Teddy was definitely right about his smarts, because throughout the fight, Strickland landed 173 significant strikes as compared to Dricus' 137, and Dricus even admitted in the post-fight press conference that he knew that he needed to improve his score in the fight and resulted to takedowns to make this happen.
By round 4 and 5, he did a good job of defending those, but obviously my takedowns got a bit sloppy, and he started, reading them, but those takedowns weren't really for getting a takedown. They were more to disrupt his game plan.
Dricus ended out landing 6 of his 11 attempted takedowns, whereas Strickland had 0, and many believe that in the end, it's these takedowns that got Dricus over the line to secure the middleweight title. But despite taking the belt, Strickland also believes that it was a headbutt during the 4th round of the fight that caused for his eye to start leaking, which as a result made it difficult to see, which he believes could have been the difference to winning the fight. And upon hearing this, Dricus said that he didn't recall any moment where he headbutted Sean's eye.
Sean just tweeted saying that he was referencing a headbutt in the fight, made it difficult to see, but he did give you congratulations and props on the fight. Did you notice any headbutt in there from either you or him?
No, I can't say that I can't say that I did.
So anyway, will Dricus Du Plessis' reign as the UFC middleweight champion last longer than that of Israel Adesanya? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, check out another one here.